for someone to give about me. I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm looking for someone to give about you. I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm looking for someone to give about me. I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm looking for someone to give about you.
It's from the love that's in me. I love the love. I am so grateful for the enemy, but yet they still attack me with the envy. They're trying to clog my drain, leave me empty. They say I'm honored every week. I say,
Man, we are here. We're live. Grand Rising, everybody, and happy Saturday. Listen, there's so much good stuff happening in Chicago and across the country. We got to talk about the good stuff, I'm so excited to be here. Chicago Community Activism Podcast is brought to us by Diversity. None other than Brian Gorman, BG as we call him affectionately, and Trek. That's Trek, T-R-E-C-C. Listen, I'm Sista Afrika. I'm your happy host this morning. So grateful, so grateful. Little history. The show came about because a lot of people do a lot of amazing things in the community. When I think of community, it's hard to not notice the unity in community and just acknowledge that. I come from a long line of community workers and servants. My parents, recent ancestor, Reverend Dr. Kwame John Porter, was my first real true understanding of what community was and meant, and I got to understand it real young. My father was the first SCLC chapter president for the Dr. King. Interesting factoid. Dr. King was not very well loved or liked, especially as he traveled. Our guests can speak to that. When he came to Chicago particularly, there were a lot of people that were afraid to even be seen, let alone, be talking or associated with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Proud to say, before I was born, my father was one of the men that Dr. King reached for, and he reached back. He sent him, they tell me, a telegram. Now we have emails, we have, communications, otherwise texting and social media and other means and streams of communicating. But the telegram is what my father received from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And my father was in the Army, and he told him that he needed him to come and fight the fight, for liberation for Black people. My father, was able to get out of the Army and come and do the work. And from there, my father would introduce Dr. King to Reverend Jackson. My father was already very active as one of the founders of the Rainbow Push Coalition. So from there, they built on more community, more development, more about liberation and protecting and serving and saving our people. So I'm excited to be in seats like these to continue to work in the legacy. Thank you so much, Brian Gorman, for seeing the vision and wanting to make this show happen and inviting me to be the host. You know what I'm saying? My prayer is that I bring some information and resources that we need. Without further ado, enough about the talk.
Right.
We had to talk to our guests and about our guests. I had come to know our guests from the community, and I would see our guests all the time, everywhere. And I would question, when does this man sleep? Because he was so extra active. My late brother, John Porter, who founded Resources Plus, would talk about our guest. He'd be like, Av, you got to know him. I'm like, I do know him. He said, no, you need to know him. I'm like, I see him all the time, John. He was like, you need to sit down with him. This man is brilliant. And I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that on a day like today, our second guest at the Chicago Community Activism Podcast is none other than the doctor, the commissioner, Bruce Montgomery.
All right.
Grand Rising, and thank you so much for being here, brother.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure. I'm honored to be here in support of your efforts and to be here early on. In fact, I did send you a text.
You did.
I want to be on the show.
Yes, you did. And thank you for your enthusiasm and wanting to be here. For those who don't know, tell us about yourself and how you got into this role as commissioner and over entrepreneurship. I mean, your bio is 15 pages. I can't read all of it because we'd be here for 2 weeks.
Well, it's just really out of passion and learning from people like your brother and your father. I was fortunate to be around and have the experience of those leaders. And what I was always impressed with was and what doesn't get talked about a lot, is those great activists that were so concerned about economic opportunity, economic development, doing business in the community, owning businesses, being entrepreneurs. So growing up on the west side and on the south side of Chicago.
Let's go west side.
Well, my father, I learned, but that's
Let's
a bit
go
of my
west side.
father.
Well, south side,
3017 West Washington.
Come on with the address. Come on.
And my father was an entrepreneur. He was one of the first African Americans to own a laundromat, M&M Coin Op Laundry, on Albany and Madison. And so that's where I grew up, in that neighborhood. And then later he had a dry cleaners. And so I remember the vibrant West Side, the historic West Side, Marshall High School, roller skating, all the kind of shops were up and down Madison Street.
Oh, yeah.
And that was all I knew until later we moved south and moved to the Chatham area. And you speak of Dr. King. Dr. King wanted to come give a speech in Chicago, and he was looking all around for places to speak. And they said, well, why don't we bring him to Cole Park? And Cole Park, for those of you that know, is on 85th and King Drive, but the community wasn't ready, and they were hollering and carrying on. And so I went to my mother. I said, I'm confused. I don't understand what the issue is. But there were different aspects within the Black community, and there were some that were very conservative and were not appreciative of what Dr. King was about, didn't fully respect him, and didn't want the smoke that came along with it.
That's right.
And so they were willing to step back. But so we're in a very interesting time today, because as we're reviving the spirits of those leaders that advocated for us, and my road was really one of thinking of empowerment. The way I met your brother was when I was going around extolling the virtues of adopting technology, and people were like, "Who's this guy always talking about computers?" And
that was way before what we have today.
And now we're sitting here benefiting this with the ability to have our own media, have our own platforms, create our own content. And we desperately need to do this today, because we're being inundated with content that is not our own. So the next step for us is to own our platforms, to invest. That this technology is so available and affordable today that we must invest in owning and driving our own content. So while And so I was sent out there by the city to see what these guys were doing. And I came up in their office, and they had a good concept. They had a plan. They had a vision. And next thing I knew, they had acquired the 4th floor of the U.S. Bank building in 63rd and Halsted. So I really came to say, well, you know what you have to do up in here is you have to put a technology center. We have to bring some internet access. We have to put some systems up here and make this a hub for entrepreneurial conversations in the community. And so we were fortunate to be able to do that.
Nice.
Got it going. And then somebody said, well, you know, somebody needs to be doing some financial literacy training, needs to do some entrepreneurship training. We need to have some classes. And I said, well, I hope you find somebody. And they said, no, you need to do this.
It's you.
And I said, well, I don't know. So ultimately I did. I got connected with one of the most brilliant up-and-coming guys in these United States, a guy by the name of John Hope Bryant, runs an organization called Operation Hope.
Come on.
And so they said, well, you're going to be the Hope office in Chicago, and we want you to teach entrepreneurship. And so that led to a Saturday morning entrepreneurship class that I did 12-week programs every Saturday morning from 9 until noon. And I ended up doing that for 3 years, had 3 cohorts a year for 3 years, and had all kinds of people come through that program. I was so shocked that people came from Maywood and
everywhere.
the south suburbs. I'm like, I didn't even know I'm doing this. And we had such a wonderful time. But to see these entrepreneurs today owning their businesses, successful, got real estate, have nonprofits, doing all kinds of wonderful things, bringing their children into the business is really rewarding. So after leaving the Greater Englewood Community Development Corporation, Greater Englewood CDC, I linked in with Sunshine Enterprises, as you mentioned, and we just had a graduation.
Yes.
And believe it or not, I was one of the graduating students. And
awesome.
And the reason I did, after teaching the class, I said, well, I want to see what the student experience is like, just to understand how challenging it is.
Yeah.
And so I went through that experience. But I've been, you know, anywhere somebody's talking about business and entrepreneurship, and whether it's Operation Push, I was one of the founding members of what they call the Rainbow Push Trade Bureau.
Oh, yeah.
And
you remember Doris Davenport?
Well,
she used to run it at one point.
Well,
when I was
exactly.
Home from college.
I was there. It was Reverend Jackson brought in a guy named Romeo Horton, and so I was back in the original founding of it, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. And then Doris came in, and she gravitated and brought us back together. And so we had several iterations of trying to push it. Of course, Reverend Jackson is so phenomenal.
Oh, yes.
From the Detroit, what he did with the autos, what he did. But I sat at my frat brother, Omega Psi Phi.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Reverend Jackson.
I love it.
Reverend Jackson.
You got your gold boots with the purple shoe strings.
I mean, I saw Reverend Jackson shake trees.
Oh, yeah.
And millions of dollars fall out.
I always say, where would we be without Reverend Jackson?
And people grab those resources and then disappear.
And never look back, never come back, never give back.
And Reverend was telling me, he said, man, if one of these guys gave me anything, we wouldn't have to worry about getting money from anybody to do anything. And so I watched people build multi-$100 million car dealerships, $100 million advertising firms, $100 million, and all through the rest. Come on. Wall Street project. There wasn't no blacks on Wall Street.
No. He put his foot on their necks to make sure.
And so we went to New York, we went to Detroit, we went to L.A., we went to Silicon Valley.
Of course.
Butch Wing.
Yes.
I was out there with Butch and them. So
less than 1% of us.
You know, and he went to he went to Apple, he went to HP,
everywhere. That's right.
So now it's on us.
That's right.
To continue this. But we just can't be indiscriminate consumers. We can't give our money
to everybody. Could you say it again? Indiscriminate consumers.
No, we can't buy everything from everybody. I don't care what they're selling. You know, I'd rather be on my own. And let me tell you something. When I was involved with a good friend of yours, you know, Yvette Moyo.
Oh, yes.
And so I was doing corporate stuff, flying all over the world, doing everything. And I had kind of given up on the community activity. And a friend of mine hooked me up with Yvette and said, no, you need to come back home. And so Yvette said, I want you to bring this technology conversation to this thing I'm doing called Moby. And so I said, okay, fine, we could do that. And we started recognizing African-American contributions to tech and innovation. Yes. And we gave all kinds of people awards all over the country. And that's really what pulled me back in to be enthusiastic about where we need to be. And there were some brothers that had platforms, Black Planet, several other platforms. And everything that we're doing now on social media, we were doing on platforms that we had created. Facebook wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye. Black Voices was
Black
another
Voices,
one.
that's
Was started
right.
by a brother down in Orlando, Florida. And these platforms were basically ripped off by Mark Zuckerberg. He wasn't doing anything.
Wow.
And then the Tribune Company took Black Voices, brought them from Florida, put them downstairs on Michigan Avenue, tried to understand everything they were doing. AOL was one of the early investors in them. And next thing you know, now all of a sudden, all the platforms we use are owned by other people. And they're not social. They don't know nothing about being social.
No.
They're antisocial.
Antisocial.
You know,
That's
Mark
right.
Zuckerberg said I'm antisocial. The only reason I put the damn thing together was try to get a lady to talk to me at least one time.
That's what he said.
And ain't
He
talked
did.
to him since.
Since.
You know, so we've got to go beyond that. And fortunately today, we can start to create our own, like you're doing right here. So for somebody that thinks a podcast isn't important, right now somebody's listening to this in Africa.
That's right.
Somebody's listening to this in the Caribbean.
Come on.
Somebody wants to connect and say, what can we do? You know, as we speak, Kenya and Sierra Leone and Zimbabwe and South Africa are getting their acts together.
Absolutely.
And wanting to link and connect.
And coming together,
you know,
yeah.
what they do with mobile, what they do with fintech, all these kinds of platforms. So now the next step is for us to be shareholding owners
Absolutely.
of everything that we create. So if you create something, sell me a few pieces of shares. Sell me 10 shares at $100.
And then
You
we keep
start
it in
something.
the family.
You-
you
come on.
said so much again.
Come on, let's
Listen,
own this and let's share this and let's have this cooperative economics. I
Yeah.
don't need 1 or 2, 3, 4, 12 black billionaires. I need tens of hundreds of thousands of millions of black millionaires. And then whenever we're ready to do something, all we got to do is say, yeah, you want in on my next deal? Hell yeah, I want in on
Listen,
your
we
next
do
deal.
it every day.
Every
Part
day.
of what we do as we're moving around in different spaces, I have 2 questions. What's happening? And how can I support what you're working on?
Yes.
Why do I ask that? I'm so glad you asked. Because that's how we connect the dots. That's how we see how we can pull it together.
Right.
And we all can win.
Absolutely.
When I think of the word community, I have to think about how I came into community. You know, and I got it innately through my parents.
That's right.
How did you come into understanding community, and what does community mean to you?
Well, again, I was fortunate to again have a life experience of growing up in a phenomenally holistic African American community. We did everything that you could possibly do in our community. Somebody showed some pictures of some. We used to play hockey when it get cold at the Park District,
Put the ice
and they put the water out. Oh, come on now! And we out there and didn't have no pads,
None.
nothing. But
Oh,
we
no.
had some sticks and we skate. And one of my
You didn't even have.
You have to talk on the mic.
okay,
Shoot.
all right. But again, one of my a friend of mine went all the way from skating at Cole Park to the National Hockey League. I mean, so we did everything because we just thought we could.
He said to
So
the
we-
National Hockey League.
So we had anything you could do, we did. Build model planes, race cars. We was out in Roseland with this, that, and the other. So the thing is, we need to have that level of vibrancy where life and opportunity and activities are going on in our community. So when I look around Bronzeville today and I look at the opportunity with the real estate that's
Yeah.
available and development
Yeah.
we're doing, and I look at the up-and-coming entrepreneurs, people like Trez Pugh with Sip and Savor,
Yep.
people doing
Phil
all these
Beckham.
wonderful things. This is the time for us to get very enthusiastic about owning our life, owning our property, buying the block, and not doing it the way where, okay, I got mine, you
Right,
get
right, right.
yours. But let's do it in the term of cooperative economics.
Economics.
Let's do it where we've got co-ops, we've got shares, we've got stakeholders and stockholders. We want you, everything should be about equity. Equity meaning stock capital equity.
Absolutely.
Equity is not like I need a piece of yours and being cut into the general
Yeah,
society.
yeah.
No, but equity like equity stakeholding and stockholding.
Owning.
So we can start playing the investment game that we want to play. Everybody ran out, and for those people that said, well, maybe there's something here, and they bought into this fictitious Bitcoin. And it is just something that was thought up. It has no real capability or value. But some people have literally made physically
Yeah.
millions of dollars in it as just something that
Would you say those are the people that got in early?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. If somebody said, hey, buy a Bitcoin for $75 and you bought one, and you bought, say, what the hell, it ain't $100, $1,000, $2,000, I'll buy one to see what it is. It is nothing but a creation and a concoction and a scheme. And it could be zero tomorrow.
Yes, it can.
And
whenever they ready and whoever will.
That's right. Whenever somebody. So then, if that can be created right before our eyes, we can do our own creation. And the same thing is, so when you say, hey, you know what, we're going to take this platform and I'm going to have 1,000 shareholders and we're going to have $10 a share. Bruce, you want to buy a stock? Yeah, I'll buy $10.
Absolutely. Why not?
And then next thing I know, you're the next NBC. You're the next CBS. You're the next Netflix. Netflix was created in our lifetime.
That's right.
From doing what? Netflix was created from delivering videotapes via the post office, and they were designed to put Blockbuster out of business.
Correct.
Blockbuster was like, if you came
And
late,
the red
you got to
box.
have a late fee. And Netflix said, you keep the tape, and when you send it back, you get another one. And it was all done through the post office. Now Netflix is buying out Hollywood and streaming left. They didn't know what streaming was when they started.
Correct.
You don't know
It
where
wasn't a
you're going
thing.
to end up.
Right.
You got to be open and receptive to divine ideas flowing in and through you as you all the time. And receptivity and openness in consciousness is what leads to prosperity and demonstration.
I have to ask you, again, you have went so many places. I'm trying to okay, ETP.
ETP.
The entrepreneur.
Okay, well, the Entrepreneur Training Program, that was a program that ran.
It's so many. I'm like.
So Entrepreneur Training Program, that was the program that ran in Inglewood under Operation Hope for 3 years in the U.S. Bank Building on the 4th floor. And then when that wound down, I did not want to wind down. So I said, I want to keep this going. So
I like that. You didn't want to wind down. Just because it winded down, you didn't want to.
So I started something called ESP, and this Entrepreneur Success Program. And so that is the legacy of the ETP is now ESP, Entrepreneur Success Program. And so I wanted to continue to do that advocacy, that acceleration, that focus on supporting our businesses. And then that's when I started to teach with Sunshine, something called the Tech and Digital Cohort. To really, now we have some wonderful businesses. One of my favorite success stories here recently, last 5 years, is Mael Organics.
Oh, yes.
The Rodriguez.
Yeah, we're all on the board with Dr. Pamela Blackman together with Building
So
Brand
the husband and wife team that created the products. And we have so many products in skin and health and beauty and all of these kinds of areas. But I think we need to be involved in the kind of areas that we're sitting here right now. We need to be involved in streaming, podcasting, AI. You see, last year, AI was the whole rage. I mean, not last year, but this year, 2024. Everything is all about AI. But again, that's just a code word, a placeholder for what is somebody else trying to create next that they want you to fall into.
Correct.
We have to say, okay, that's what you're doing. Here's what we're doing. And we're using these same platforms to drive solutions in transportation and tourism and sustainability and energy efficiency. One of the biggest things in our community, if you look around Brownsville and you look at these buildings that were built in the 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, they're not energy efficient.
No.
And so every year when it gets cold like it is right now, $1 billion goes up and out chimneys, up and out windows, and that money's gone forever. If we get serious about capturing that energy efficiency in our community, that's $1 billion that doesn't go to the gas company, to ComEd. And what can you do with $1 billion every year that you can recirculate in your own economy?
Come on.
We need
to
to be
that, how do we connect the dots with that as it pertains to the community and our young people? In Chicago particularly, I believe the stat came out last week on NPR, is it 16 to 28-year-olds are unemployed, and there's a direct connection to that and violence. How do we connect what you just said to that and tap into our young people?
Because we start teaching and doing these things collectively and cooperatively, buying buildings, making them energy efficient, decarbonizing that activity, having that a part of our high schools like Dunbar and Simeon. They used to, you can build a complete house during your high school experience. You can do it in 1 year if you want to. And so the kids come to school every day. They get the 2x4s. They line them up. They lay them out. They put in the insulation. They run the wire in, and they say, you know what? I built a house. I know how to build a house. Once you have that knowledge in your head, nobody can take that away from you.
Nobody.
So you can build a house. You can build an electric vehicle. You can build a podcast studio. You can do all of that in middle school and high school. You know, when I was in middle school, I was one of those kids. The teacher said, "Who wants to set up the film projector?" I do. Well, go down the hall, Bruce, and go down to the room and get the projector, run the projector down, bring it back down, set it up, run the film, do whatever, get it all set up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the man. And kids love to do that.
Yeah,
They
give them something to do. Right.
They want to be a part of something. So again, you need to have a podcast studio in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, where the kids are talking about, hey, news of the week. What's going on in Bronzeville? What's happening? There was a friend of mine that started something like that with the young kids covering the sporting events in the black community. And this became, and the kids loved it. Out on the sideline at the football game, interviewing the players. Next thing you know, that's Stephen A. Smith.
Come on.
You know, that's Shay Shay.
Come on.
That's
right.
And they said, you can't tell me I don't know how to do it because I've been doing it since 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I know how to do this. I know how to edit. I know how to get on Final Cut Pro. I know how to do CG. I know how to lay it all out. And then I used to do a show on Can TV.
I remember that.
I remember Can TV. It's over west.
I used to do it on the west side, and I loved it. But the one thing about it is, when we first started doing Can TV, you could only see it if you had cable.
Yeah.
And you had to
Channel
have
19.
19, 21, whatever. And people used to say, oh, I want to see your show over here. I want to see your show somewhere else. And so I said, well, we've got to stream this stuff. And the Can TV would never get in the streaming. So finally, I had my engineer save a CD or a DVD of my show, and then I would take it home and I upload it to YouTube. And right now you can see Tech Access TV shows on YouTube that I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And people would see it all over. People still coming to me all over. Wait, what you that guy you interviewed, the founder of Group Out, this, that, and the other. So again, we need to take what's so exciting with kids walking around with smartphones and all these kinds of things is we need to monetize this in our community and understand what these platforms are capable of and have shows just like you're having, talking about community well-being, community health, community economic opportunity, and doing this as something that we can co-own ourselves and then start monetizing it in terms of driving traffic and resources and running this whole economy. And then we're returning to what Bronzeville used to be when the Regal Theater was what the Regal
47th,
was. And Seaway Bank, Independence Bank, Illinois Service Federal, Joe Louis Milk, Jitney Cab Companies. All that activity was business activity that was humming, and it was such an envy of what was outside our community that the outside community wanted to tear it all apart.
Because we had everything right within us.
You know?
Listen, our time is up.
All right.
And there's so many takeaways. I appreciate you. You know, you don't interview in the style of yes, no. You give so much. I want to say thank you because there's so much to learn. There's so many takeaways.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I can't wait to the part two.
Well, we learn from each
thank
other.
You.
From you doing the what was that you and Cassiopeia would do where you the mob,
money mob, flash mob. Ooh, you going back.
I love that so much.
Yes.
And so you and are one of the people that are really when we need it. You're the kind of influencer. You always talk about who's influencing people. We need grassroots influencers, authentic influencers in the image and likeness of a people like your father, like Dr. Jackson, that influence us to go to our higher selves and to do the higher work. And the calling is complete unity within the community. That's what it's all about.
Appreciate you, gratitude, and thank you for all that you do, all this information that you provide and have provided for so long.
Each and every week.
Man, and you have a show today. Please shout that out and tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on WVON. I got a show, Bruce on Business, every 2 o'clock.
And he on business, as you can hear.
I want to make sure that anything that's going on that can uplift your business activity that you know about. There's no gatekeeping around here. We want to plug you in.
I love it. And your socials for people to follow you.
You can find me, Bruce Montgomery. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Tech Access TV, and you can find me Entrepreneur Success Program.
Thank you all so much. We've been here live with the Dr. Commissioner Bruce Montgomery. He has given us so much information today. You've been watching live Chicago Community Activism Podcast with Sista Afrika.
We are who we've been waiting for. We are we got. We are our own solution.
I'm looking, I'm searching.
I'm looking.
I'm looking, I'm searching.
I'm searching.
I'm looking for someone to give about me. I'm looking, I'm searching. I'm looking, I'm searching. I'm looking for someone to give about you. I'm looking, I'm searching. I'm looking, I'm searching. I'm looking for someone to give about me. I'm looking, I'm searching. I'm looking, I'm searching. I'm looking for someone to give about you.
It's from the love that's in me. I love the love. I am so grateful for the enemy, but yet they still attack me with the envy. They're trying to clog my drain, leave me empty. They say I'm honored every week. I say humbled and grateful.